What's up, you dirt bags? My name is Luke Egebrotten, and we are here with Mr. Luke Payne. How we doing?
Cheers, brother. Good. How are you? I would cheers you, but I got an empty glass because
I know.
you and I did our pre podcast.
Yeah, we
So
should
I
have.
drank it all.
I should have brought a cooler up here and get some refills because I actually switched it up. If you notice, I've got a
You
beer.
have some
bottle,
beer,
so
yeah.
Blue Moon.
Nice.
I think the last 6 or 8 podcasts in a row, I've just done that Maker's Mark whiskey, and it's
Yep.
great. But I think it's the heat. I'm sitting up here, and it's pretty hot upstairs, and Arizona heat, 111 degrees today. I'm like, honestly, I don't know if a glass of whiskey will do it for me. So switching it up a little bit.
I would say whiskey is whiskey isn't universal. You can have it at any type of heat, but I feel like it tastes better in the winter.
For sure. 100%. And yeah, so I'm not saying I was getting burnt out on it, but just had to switch it up for one.
Hell yeah, man. I am not a huge Blue Moon fan, so I'm not going to say I'm going to switch anytime soon. But I was going to say, when are we going to build our studios out? Because when I build the one here in Fargo for the dirt bags, I'm having like a full bar next to mine.
Oh, I like it. So I actually, if anyone's watching on YouTube, huge changes here. So I turned my desk around. So got
Big
kind of
changes to
a
HQ.
mini studio going, but I was just thinking about it because at our house, I have my own office here. So Luke was actually thinking about like, how could we make this more into a studio? And so
Yeah.
if anyone has any ideas or any products on Amazon to send them my way, because I would like to make it more of a permanent studio where now it's just kind of my desk, mic, got the box light. But Luke, I mean, your background always looks good there.
I have a shelf with what was supposed to be Lila's Christmas presents, and I
Is
took
now
them
your backdrop.
Yeah, now they're my backdrop. Yep. So, sorry, Lila, for ruining your fun, but they're mine now. So, but yeah, I would like to do. Cole and I have been talking about finally building shops here soon and like office space. And then when we do that in Fargo, I am definitely putting some sort of like podcast recording studio in there.
It would be sweet to have the setup and like the live setup where you have like the mics, the cameras already set up, because and I don't know when this is going to come up, but we're going to have Doug Castles on again. And the first time we had him on is at Con Expo, is our first live show, first live podcast. And Brandon helped a ton. Like without him, we couldn't have done it, but it was a bit of a mess. Like it
was a mess. It was loud.
So many variables. Like there's cameras, there's lav mics, there's mixers. And I'm like, man, I kind of miss the days of just popping up the laptop and hitting record.
I hate to go back to like the blast from the past, but I somehow came across like the Phaser Friday podcast.
Oh, no.
And I heard the one that you and I recorded, and Luke, it sounded so bad on my end. I'm like, how the fuck did anybody hear what we were saying?
Oh, on your mic?
Yeah. Well, that was like pre-mic before the styrofoam. That was like phone in hand.
Yeah. And funny story too. I don't know if you remember this. The first podcast we ever did. So it was my first ever episode of a podcast. And for people listening, this is a year before the Dirt Bags. I had my own podcast called Phaser Friday. The last Friday of every month, we'd launch it. Luke was my very first guest. And
I think it was the last one too, wasn't I?
I wasn't the ones, I think. And so I'm like ready to go. I'm like, I've got my black,
Luke wore like shirt and tie.
Yeah. I've got like my black dress shirt on. I've got my notes. I'm like all prepared. And I'm, even like a little nervous. I'm like, this is the first podcast. This is gonna be revolutionary. And 8:00 comes around, Luke jumps on and he's in his truck on his phone.
I was driving. Like, yeah.
Dude, we're gonna have to reschedule this.
Yeah, you got mad at me. I remember you're like, this ain't gonna work. And I was like, dude, sorry, I'm working. And you're like,
I think it was worse than mad. I was just like a little disappointed. I was like, no, we're gonna have to.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
We're gonna have to move this. So it actually, for anyone that hasn't seen it, I believe it's still up, unless we decide to go back and take it down. But I haven't listened to that in 2 or 3 years now. So we actually, funny enough, we made the Detroit Lakes newspaper when that one came out.
We did, and I don't know how the fuck we did, but
yeah, it was the only time we ever made the newspaper, for the podcast.
Fuck, that was funny. Classic little blast of the past there. But yeah, Luke, like we had kind of talked about before the podcast, but Luke and I have got some changes coming to the structuring of the Dirtbags. We're going to start introducing some segments. We're going to keep, kind of the normal flow as we have right now, every other Friday, be knocking one out. But we're going to kind of transition more into kind of some random episodes as well, like a Q&A question segment to where we answer some questions, just because I feel like we get a lot of questions, Luke, and we don't get to answer a lot of them. So we want to take some time and kind of go and answer those. And then if anybody, we're kind of modeling after the Frizella podcast. If anybody has listened to, I can't,
Andy.
Andy, but what is his podcast name? He's
Real AF, isn't it?
Is it Real? It used to be MFCEO. Now it's Real AF, and I don't remember what it's called, but it's probably Real AF. But how he's got like the Q&As, he's got the real talk, he's got, the CTIs. Luke and I are going to kind of transition our podcast to kind of model after that, to hit a couple different segments and topics, and have some different conversations.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing about the Q&A, because that'll be a new segment, like everything else will be somewhat the same, but the Q&A will be nice because it's almost going to be like a watered down Dirtbags University, because we're not necessarily the experts, and so if people don't care about our opinion, that's okay. But we do get a lot of questions that we can answer and we can give our opinion on, and so I see those as just kind of the quick hitter episodes where we go through a few of the questions. We send it out on just a random day, so it might come out on a Wednesday, a Monday, a Saturday. But Luke, like you mentioned, we're still going to keep every other Friday going, and we're going to kind of mix those up between having our guests on like we normally do. So probably having, a guest, and then the next one we'll have another guest, and then we'll have like a podcast like this where we kind of go into, you and I dive deeper into some topics, and then we just have the one-on-one, which is separate from the Q&A.
Yep. And you and I will we've done it before to where like we've touched on topics, but we haven't really, like, between you and I, really dove into those topics, and if we're lucky, maybe Luke and I will get into an argument on certain topics, and, you guys can hear us actually argue for the first time.
Yeah, I could see it happening. I mean,
I can see it.
I don't know what it'll be on, but I'm excited for that. I think, I'm excited to continue adding more structure. You and I, when we first started this, we didn't want it just to be two guys bickering just for fun, just to have a podcast. It was like, we wanted this to be a business. We wanted this to make money. We wanted this to have impact. And we're doing all those things right now. But we can't do it without everyone listening, supporting, signing up to Dirtbags University, like listening to the podcast. And because I feel like, and Luke, maybe you think differently, but I feel like because we're taking that approach of like, we want this to be a business, like this isn't just a free thing. Like I feel like we're getting more support from that. And because we can bring in better speakers because we're paying the speakers. We can bring in, and this is for the webinar, and we can bring in like more resources. We can pay a producer to produce our episodes and make us look halfway decent or sound a little bit better. And so we couldn't do that if you and I were staying up till 1 a.m. editing every single episode.
No, we couldn't. I also think the value add to, presenting this as a business, as a for-profit business, is it keeps you and I accountable too. Because I know there's times like you'll text me at like a 3 on a Tuesday and be like, hey, Luke, we're recording tonight at 7:30, and I'm in a dozer or something, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta make that. If it was more for like fun, I'd just be like, no, dude, sorry, can't make it happen.
Right. Let's skip this one. We'll do it next week. And granted, we have done that, but I mean, in the last year and a half, we started this February 2022. We've only missed like 1, maybe 2. And then we, quickly followed
come out that
Monday with an episode. So, and this is advice for anyone starting a podcast. Consistency is going to be the make or break factor for you. And with consistency, if you are the one that's editing every single show, maybe at the beginning you can do it, but it is almost impossible, in my opinion, to keep up that consistency, because you're not going to make a ton of money podcasting for a very long time. So if you're the one editing, you're the one recording, you're going to have a full-time job or business as well. and you're just going to be burnt out. So Luke, I still love podcasting, and because all we do is we hit record, we have a couple drinks, we hit stop, and we send it to Brandon.
Brandon's the man. He's the man that fucking makes us sound good. One note that you kind of brought up too, Luke, is I want to talk about the value of podcasts, right? Obviously, you and I, the podcast itself, we don't make really any money on, right? It's the opportunities that present themselves with the podcast, right?
It's so like, glad you brought that up.
It's like athletes with sponsorship deals, blah, blah, blah. We don't make any money podcasting, but there's one huge thing that I know that has helped, both you and I, as far as like the credibility standpoint, right? I know there's been like 5 different people that have been like, hey, I've listened to your podcast. I love how you structure that and how you are just open and there's no like door closing. There's nothing. Yep. And how you run your business is out there. They're like, I love that. I want to come work for you. So for me, it's almost kind of like a recruiting piece as well.
Yeah, dude, I'm actually so glad you brought that up. I've been really thinking about that and writing about it the last couple of days because a lot of people that, maybe they're doing YouTube or they're doing podcasting or they're making some money on Instagram Reels or, there's all these creator funds, which are amazing. But if that is your only focus, like my opinion is you're going to get screwed eventually, because when the algorithm shifts or when you get demonetized, you're screwed. So what I always say is use these platforms, podcasting, YouTube, Reels, TikTok, as a channel to your actual business, your actual money-making business. So that's whether that's a product, that's a service, that's recruiting. For me, that's marketing services. Like it will only accentuate like your actual business. But that is always my opinion. That's why I'm always so big on websites, because you actually own your domain. You own your own website. You own the content on there. Facebook page, even though it's your own Facebook page, like you don't own Facebook. And so they can change that.
They can do what they want.
Yeah. And so utilize them as tools, as channels, utilize them to go to your actual business. So I think that's so true in podcasting. Luke, you and I have heard it so many times where people start a podcast and want it to replace their full-time job. And
doesn't happen.
If you try and make, $5K a month or whatever you make at your job, doing that podcasting while paying for expenses and everything else, like it's going to be a tough reality.
Yeah. I think you and I are a year and a half in, and I don't think we've made a single dollar on the podcast itself.
Yeah. But we've made quite a bit of money.
We made money with the podcast, but not on the podcast.
Yes. Exactly. And that's where it's at too. It's how can you leverage your podcast and let your audience know it too. I think that's very important. Your audience trusts you, and your audience cares what you have to say. And so if you are openly telling them like, I use this, you should use it, or these people, you have to do that in a way that you trust them. So like for us, we're not just going to bring on a product that we don't like or we don't trust, because, we're going to get screwed over as well.
100%. Going back to, kind of the segments of the podcast, as well as we're on that topic. Again, why we podcast is because we can get to so many more people, right? It's just a really big reach, which is why you and I are kind of trying to get into these different categories as far as like the show itself. So I just want to reiterate to people like, hey, if you have something that you want questions on, or you want talked about, or you just want to bring light to, send it to us, because chances are, Luke, you've probably heard about it. I might have experienced it. If not, we can probably find somebody that might have some knowledge or know-how on there, and then we can get them on the show.
Yeah. Even a quick example to that. I had a good friend reach out yesterday and just say, when's the next Dirtbags University? And, we're like, oh, Luke and I are going to get that date set and get the topic set. And he's like, oh, you should do one on contracts. And I was like, very tough webinar to do. Just not enough content, and, can be kind of boring and not for everyone. And so I'm like, that would be much better in a quick hitter episode where it's like, okay, Luke and I, and maybe we bring somebody else in to help. Let's dive into contracts, but have it be a podcast that's 20 minutes instead of an hour and a half.
Yeah. There's a lot of really good like webinar, like suggestions that we've gotten, but like you said, there's not enough to them to make them like a full webinar, right?
Yeah.
Like contracts or getting paid, or, dealing with hard and, employees or people that you're working for, things that you can help, yourself, your business kind of relate to them or work with them even better.
Yeah, and we learned that firsthand. And most people listening have been, to a lot of our webinars. And so our very first webinar was basically scaling your construction company, like super easy. We had a ton of panelists that were awesome, and it just went way better than we could have ever expected. And then the second webinar went incredible, but Luke, you and I kind of did a disservice with the topic that we picked, because we did cash flow in construction, because our thought was, okay, everyone's wondering about cash flow. How do you scale? How do you, work on cash flow? But what we didn't look at is that, okay, that topic can be discussed in detail for a good 45 minutes, an hour.
That's about it.
But our webinars are an hour and a half. And so we saw that there's a little bit of a dead period where, okay, how can we pick something from you guys that's broad enough, but also we can dive deep, deep into and give you guys the most value.
Yeah. Like going back to the cash flow one, there's so many people that want to know more about cash flow. I don't think you can ever stop learning about how to improve the cash flow of your business, right? But it is so based off of your business to where you really can't get broad. You really got to kind of dive into more of like the personal aspects of your business in order to really understand it. You can give some suggestions, but they're going to be very, very broad suggestions compared to like the one Trevor did on bidding and estimating. He can tell you our whole process. Obviously, our process is going to be different than everybody, but people can take different parts of that process and implement it into their own.
Yeah, the one with Trevor we just did was awesome. I think I really like the numbers ones, because like when we're talking spreadsheets, because I'm not a numbers guy, I'm not a spreadsheet guy. And so when you have somebody that actually knows what they're talking about and can also speak English and like walk you through it and go through the basics and not just ramble on, those are, diamonds in the rough. So his was awesome. Obviously Will's was awesome. And even the leadership one with Dave and Aaron, like that was a very different one, but it hit on a lot of good points. And to have those two, like their opinions and their expertise, it's just so cool to sit in a room with them and basically just ask them questions and have them kind of do their thing.
That was a totally different webinar, because that was credibility within the industry, right? 100%. Those are two people that have seen a lot, that have learned a lot, that know a lot, that could really answer those questions well. Yeah. And they can kind of dissect them and point out like, hey, you're looking at it the totally wrong way. Right. I think of my question that I remember I asked Aaron. He's like, you're thinking about yourself as an employee, Luke. Right. People don't want to look at it that way if they're your employee. And it kind of brought a reality to my eyes.
Yeah. So, no, and it's always great too, to have people that don't always agree with everything you say, and to be like, no, you're thinking of it wrong. And, kind of doing it respectfully. But also just like people that aren't afraid to like push back a little bit and be like, no, I think it's going down more, this route. And so those two were awesome just to have on. And I know we got to kind of finalize our next Dirtbags University. I've already had a few people asking about it. So we've been trending upwards, which is awesome. On average, we're having about 50 people sign up from all over the country. We had, I think, 5 zip codes or 5 time zones on the last one.
Hell yeah.
To where Connor was, he's in Australia. So it was like 11:30 in the morning. So he was drinking coffee.
Yeah, as we were drinking whiskeys.
It happens.
But yeah, that's gonna be kind of how we go forward with the podcast. And again, we want to try to pivot to get the most use out of it and the most like knowledge that we can to our listeners, obviously, because I feel like, Luke, we're growing, right? We're seeing a lot more downloads, we're seeing a lot more plays. I've noticed our ratings, our people are rating us more, and we rely on you guys to help with that content as well, though, right? Because I only have my struggles. Luke, you only have your struggles. It's good to know like what other people are experiencing as well, or even if they're not struggles, but it's good to have those talking points, because I'm sure they're relatable somehow that you and I can touch base on.
Yeah.
And other
And
people have that same relatability.
for sure. And to be fair, I think we have, all the dirt bags have been sending them in. They've been listening and engaging with that, but we haven't done a good job of using a platform to like discuss those in detail. Like we've kind of maybe slipped it in a webinar, or maybe slipped it in with a podcast guest, but we haven't totally addressed it. So that's something I'm excited about, to have a whole segment like dedicated to that. Like I said, kind of a watered down mini webinar that we've been doing, but more of a Q&A session.
Yeah, no, I agree. And just diving more into it. Like we always say we're going to dive in these, which we do, but this is a whole new way that we can do that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of pivoting a little bit. I know I called you the other day. Potential, we might go to Houston in October.
I'm signed up, so we just got to get you signed up. Hell, I've got my confirmation number and everything. I haven't paid them yet, but I got to pay them. I got to send a check.
All right, there we go. So, would I just come as your team, or can you sign up individually?
You can sign up individually from what I believe. Basically, it's just for anybody that doesn't know, the Dirt World Summit is in Houston. I believe the BuildWitt team, they're going to have some incredible speakers there, and it's all about, it sounds like team building. Just, building the relationships with your team, how to be a leader, how to kind of present yourself as a leader, just kind of a cool summit to really hopefully learn and divulge some of the information. I know Jocko is a speaker. I think Randy is speaking as well.
Pretty sure. Aaron's speaking. He's got a full keynote. They're loaded. I think, like you mentioned too, the leadership part, they have like a full day dedicated to that. So I'm really excited for that. I know a few guys going too, and like Jared Kepfer with Arrow Crushing. I was just talking to him. He's going and he's bringing two of his young guns down so they can kind of learn more about leadership. And like, I could see them potentially going into like a project manager operations role within the company. And so really just investing in yourself, investing in education, investing in development, but also having a good time. I think there is a golf outing the first day.
There is. Are we doing the golf outing, Luke? I think I signed up for it.
I would. So let's just plan on it. I think it's like Tuesday or Wednesday, but I got to work on my swing a bit more, but I think that'd be fun.
I'm a scratch golfer, so I'll carry the team. Don't you worry.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I am actually. I shoot 70-75, baby. It's crazy. I love golfing. So people don't know that, but I'm not to toot my own horn, but I'm a pretty good golfer. In July, I have there's like 4 days where it's strictly golf. And I called Cole on this the other day, and I was like, hey, just letting you know, this day, and this day, I'm going to be golfing. I said, but they're for Western, right? Western's a sponsor in one of the events because it's out in the oil field, right? We're making connections. And he's like, no, man, no worries. Sounds good. I'll just be doing my thing behind the books. You keep schmoozing. I was like, deal. Thanks.
Dude, that's awesome. No, I love golf outings when it's like kind of more of that like fundraiser or event where it's, like, okay, let's do a 4-man scramble or let's pair up. I think that's the most fun because everyone's kind of like in the same boat where you want to have a good time, but I feel like we're all so competitive that it's like, I don't want to get blown out of the water. Like I want to win too.
I want to win. There's one that's a 2-day event. It's a Saturday, Sunday in this week, right? And it's out in Western North Dakota. It's like an oil field, like promotion one and whatever. But the winning team gets $75,000. So we are stacking our team. So I'm like, I'm going with one of our GCs because we have golfed with them in the past and they're a fun group to golf with. But they asked me if I would golf with them, and I was like, hell yeah, I'm golfing with you.
Wow, $75,000.
$75,000 is like your big purse, and then there's like individual sports bets that you can make like on the side and
like closest to pin and
no, but there's like sports betting somehow. I don't know how that works, but like you can place bets on teams, you can place bets on like players, because then there's like certain holes on like only this player can shoot a score, so you can like bet on their score. And we're in it to make some money on that one.
Is that out in like Williston area, or where is that?
It's in Watford City.
Watford City. I wonder if Three Forks and our One Core services, if they're out there. I think they always do
I bet they gotta be. Yeah. Dude, so we sponsored a beer cart So you'll see a Western beer cart rolling around, and it's a really good connection piece too. So,
dude, that's good stuff. No, I love to see it. And just like, yeah, I mean, I think the point is too, is like getting out there and working on yourself too. I had somebody tell me that the other day, cause I've been kind of working through that of just like, I've kind of pulled myself out of the business in a sense, where I'm still very much in it, but I don't have to be operations focused.
Yep.
And, been going through some coaching, and they're like, go work on yourself, go do, development, educational things, like things like that. I'm like, all right, sweet.
Might as well.
I've
Yeah.
really been focusing on that, and even just relationship building, like planning a few flights, like going out to visit a bunch of clients and things like that. But I think that's so big. And a lot of times we can just get buried in our work, where all of a sudden 5-6 years go by and you haven't like even
done anything,
developed anything, or like increased, your knowledge in business. So I'm excited for that, chapter, and especially heading down and meeting a bunch of guys in the dirt world.
You as a leader have to take that initiative to do it though, right? Like, because if you're buried in your business and you are like, I can't get away and blah, 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 you need to do some thinking, right? Your business should be able to run without you. You got to put the right people in place to run. If you can't do that, again, you got to reevaluate, because the business is only as good as the leaders, right? So if the leaders don't know certain aspects, or whatever the case may be, as far as like the education standpoint, they are limited, right? Your ceiling is here, to where if you keep improving, you keep learning, you keep going to these places, you keep introducing yourself to these new people, you're going to continually elevate yourself.
What would you say would be your first hire? So your one-man show, do you hire an operator first? Like, when do you end up hiring that person that can end up kind of managing some of the projects for you?
Definitely. I mean, operators for sure. Operators and laborers are going to be your first hire in business,
for
right?
Sure.
Because I feel like once then you can trust them to do the job, right? And you as the business owner can get more of what the business owner needs to get done, whether it's paperwork, whether it's getting caught up on invoicing, whether it's checking out projects, right? On the smaller scale side, it's your laborers and operators. Okay. Once you kind of grow out of that, right? Obviously you have your laborers, operators, maybe you need a front desk gal. Okay. Maybe you don't have time to take all of these calls. Maybe you don't have time to print off all of your bills, right? Maybe they can help you with the payables and the receivables. Okay. Then after that, once you start, and again, this is all opinion based, but this is how I would do it. Right. And then after that, okay, I need more project managers. Okay. I want some project managers to look over the operators and laborers to make sure that we are having the quality that I want. So then I can take a step back and start relationship building, right? When I'm relationship building, that's how I'm going to grow my business into different sectors.
Where I've really seen the bottleneck, especially in the excavation companies that we typically work with, they're much smaller, they're under 10 million. And the bottleneck that I typically see in like hiring is when you have to hire a non-revenue generating position, when they are not the ones like, oh, that could be an equipment payment, or, oh, they could be out moving dirt for us, like they're generating revenue. It's hard for a lot of people to say, I'm going to hire an office manager that's going to like field these calls and take all of this off my plate, do all the invoicing, do all the billing, because they're like, if I'm paying them $3-4 grand a month, that's like, they're not generating $8 grand a month, but it's the big picture. We're not talking about a couple $1,000 every month. We're talking about like the big picture of like, what are you trying to grow your business into, or do you even want to grow a business? And so, I found that to be difficult for some people, is like when you start to hire those type of positions.
Look at your business as a whole, right? Depending if you're, say you have a wife, right? How can you transition your wife maybe to do that spot, or transition, maybe you have a fiance. Hey, we want to make this, or maybe you don't even want to go that route. Maybe it could be more of a part-time base. I know companies that would have, these office manager / accountant ladies come into their businesses 2 days a week, and they would get caught up 2 days a week on invoicing. They'd send out emails. They would, pay bills, whatever. Granted, you can still take the phone calls, right? There's so many ways to look at it, and so many ways that can really help you. You just have to try.
Yeah. And I think one thing that really helps me and has helped a lot of people I've worked with is write out everything that you do day to day and just write it all out. And it sounds ridiculous because most people listening are like, oh, I'm going to need like a mile long worth of paper. And it's just like, write it all out and then look at some things. It's like, okay, do I have to be doing this? Do I have to be going to the printer and printing out this bill and mailing it? It's like, maybe not. Like, who could do that? And then you start to learn how to delegate and you start to take some of those off your plate. And all of a sudden you start to have more time. You pull your head above water. You can see where your business is going, what your guys are doing on site. And then you can start to kind of, you don't have to pull away from the business, but if an emergency happens and you have to go, the business isn't going to crumble.
You should, I like how you brought up that list of what you do. Next to that list, you should bring up where you think you're lacking.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Say, that could be a really good starting point to show you what areas you need to hire in. Right. If I'm too busy going to the post office, going to, wherever I'm going and I'm not out in the field and I can't give my guys certain clarification.
Yeah.
That tells me I don't need to be doing that, because if I'm not giving them what they need in the field, say I'm the one that only knows how to lay pipe. Right. My guys, I tell them how to do it, but then I'm stuck at the post office trying to send off my invoices, but my guys don't know what they're doing. I told them what they do, but they need me to show them.
Yeah.
That is costing me more money than it would be probably hiring somebody part-time to take on some of this piddly stuff, as far as emails, as far as sending out mail, right? You got to look at it like that too. How can you make yourself more money by bringing people on?
Yeah. I mean, classic spend money to make money. Like
100%.
Yes, you're going to bring somebody in, you're going to pay them whatever it takes to get that stuff done. But at the end of the day, it's going to save you probably a whole lot more money. We see that all the time. Obviously we do digital marketing. So when we start with a company, sometimes the owner will be fiddling with like the website or trying to learn SEO. I'm like, you make so much more money, like not focusing on
worrying about this. Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, go run your business. Like, we'll take care of this. This is what we do every single day. And trust me, you will make so much more money when you do what you're good at. And yeah, it's just looking at like what you're good at. And also, should I be doing this? Yeah. I just, the easy ones. And also, I think of my dad, he had a big issue with this. He was reading on like tax law, and it was before he had like a good tax guy, and reading up on tax law and like how to change his business from an LLC to an S corp. And he's doing all this himself and he has no idea. I'm like, Dad,
hire somebody.
I'm like, and so I basically had him hire Gabe, who's our fractional CFO. And he loves it. He's like, yeah, I don't have to do anything. I just pay him every month. I'm like, dude, that's
what they're there for.
This is what they're there for. And it's so freeing, and you can really then become your best self and your best version of a business owner. But you can't when you're just buried in stuff that you shouldn't be doing.
Right. People and maybe I'm ignorant for saying this, but people overcomplicate business way too often. Right. There is so many resources out there for you to use. Right. There's a lot of checks and balances, and there's a lot of like weighing what are the pros, what are the cons. Yes. But if you really take a step back and look at it from kind of a bird's eye view, take your emotion out of it, and you're going to be able to tell what's working and what's not working. Then you as a business owner have to say, this isn't working. Let's get it out of here. Be done with it. Right. That's how people overcomplicate it, is that they bring their emotion into a lot of their decisions.
Yeah. I'm kind of going off on a little bit of a tangent, but when you said emotion too, I noticed this probably when I was about 1.5 years or 2 years into business. I used to be like, we'd get like an $800 check from you, and it'd be like, oh, here it is. This is awesome. And then like the bank account would go up, and then it'd go down a little bit. And I was like so emotional to it. Where now, and I've heard Aaron Witt talk about this, like it's just like a number. And I don't mean that good or bad. It's just like, it is what it is. Like we just try to make money each month, and it doesn't like have an effect on me, because I see the business like Phaser Marketing and Dirtbags as like a separate entity. Even though I'm 100% owner, I can take out as much as I want. The business pays me, an employee, a salary, and so that's what I make. So whether we make 100K in a month, 50K, 200K, it doesn't really matter to me, because it's like, as long as we're profitable and we're staying by our principles, which our principles are typically a third, a third, a third.
Mhm.
You know, it's if we make $100,000, $90,000 top line revenue, we should do $60,000 gross profit, $30,000 net. Like I'm super simple, super round numbers. And like you said, Luke, it doesn't have to be as complicated as some people make it sound to be. It's like all these percentage points, all these crazy numbers, like, especially when you're starting out, go very, very simple. And you'll realize that that's kind of all it is.
100%. And we could get down a rabbit hole of this conversation, but I'm going to say it in like my industry, right?
Yeah.
In relation to, I'm going to say like social media. And I think this is the problem with a lot of the people coming into businesses right now. They see these cool videos, this cool equipment, you know, whatever it might be. And they're like, I need that to succeed. But that's what ends up putting them out of business, because they're overcomplicating their business by telling themselves, I need this piece in order to succeed. No, you do not need this piece. Do you have work for this piece? No, I do not. Then why the fuck would you buy it? Right. And I bring it back to like Dylan Mercier. Model after. I love how
he's the man.
I mean, the rental king. I told him this the other day, but he is doing so well with what he has. And he's like, Luke, I'm almost debt free. He goes, I understand my overhead. I understand like what I need to make. I understand what I want to pay myself and what my goals are. Right. And I'm not overcomplicating it. I'm not looking. He told me he had to get rid of Instagram because he's like, dude, I feel, and I'm not trying to out him, but this is a great example, but he's like, I feel like I'm behind. And I'm like, you're not behind, because and I'm not trying to like point fingers at anybody here, but I see it all the time. Don't buy the shit if you don't need it, is what I'm getting at. Right. And don't compare yourself to another business because they have this nice equipment or this new paint jobs or the NCons versus the non-NCons, right? Don't compare yourself to where other people are. Because I mean, Instagram is Instagram. Nobody shows the bad.
Yeah.
Right. So of course it's going to look good. Don't overcomplicate it. Do what's best for your business and where you're at.
Yeah. If I was just going to say, it's funny you brought that up, because I was going to say, if anyone wants to reach out to somebody that's doing very, very well and knows their numbers and knows like when to buy something and when to rent, it's Dylan Mercier.
It's Dylan.
But he, like, I did see he kind of jumped off Instagram and he's been kind of MIA. So probably won't be able to reach him, but like
he's back on now.
Oh, he is. Okay, good.
Yeah, he is. And if Dylan listens to this, I'm not trying, there was no like, I'm not trying to out you in any way, but I think that is a very good example because he's doing very well.
Yeah.
But he still gets it in his head to where he compares to other people. Well, maybe I should be here. Maybe I should be here. And by deleting Instagram, he's like, I have alleviated that headache. I have alleviated that complication in my life, basically.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great example because, and he even said it on our podcast with him, one of them, and he's just like, man, like I want that equipment. I want it, but like the numbers have to work and
they have to make sense.
They have to make sense. And for, you can't just get a 325 with an NCon to go, pick up sticks and, burn some brush. It's like
looks cool
in your backyard, it's gotta be like, it's gotta serve a purpose. And so, yeah, like I'm just like so proud of him and like seeing the way he's doing it. Like Luke, you and I said it from the beginning. We're like, this dude is different. Like he's a stud.
Very different. Dylan is built different.
That was back when he was an employee.
Yeah. No, and look at him now. I mean, he's killing it. But it's sorry to go off on a tangent, but again, that was one of the topics that has kind of bugged me for a while, is people associate success off people's Instagrams. And they try to compare it to that. Oh, it looks like you're doing really well. You have this. If I get that, maybe I'll do the same. Doesn't work like that. Let
me throw something at you though. Do you think that, not from a contractor perspective, but from a homeowner perspective, that can help? Is like, they see your portfolio and it's like, they must be doing well. They must know what they're doing. I'm going to give them a call, compared to like the reverse.
I think there's a point of credibility, but that's all in your content, right? You don't have, like, you can still, like, if you have a project and you have to rent, fucking take all the photos, all the videos, right? Yep. Nobody has to know that you're renting that piece.
Exactly. Yep.
right? To that question, no, I don't think it's a big deal, right? If you present yourself on the projects of what you're doing and you showcase those projects and you have equipment in the background, right? It doesn't matter what you have. You still have it for that project. It shows I can get the right pieces for what I need to do.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, even like in our business, people look at our website and they see like, oh, Luke, you have such a big team. You have like 13 people working for you. I'm like, yeah, it's amazing, but they're also all subcontractors, and doesn't mean they're not part of the team or they're not like, they don't work for a Phaser. Just doesn't mean they're all making $60,000 a year on a salary,
Correct.
And so I always tell people, I'm like, we have one full-time employee and myself, and then a bunch of people that work with us consistently. And so it's like, nobody needs to know that. Nobody is going to change their mind when they hear that. It's like, oh, they just have resources. They know how to get the job done. They know how to bring people or equipment or resources they need to complete the job that is being asked of them. So I think it's just being resourceful and not doing everything yourself if you can.
100%. But at the same time, people don't have to know. Like you said, if you don't own those resources, you have them right here. They're at your palms. You have access to them. You can get them. Yeah.
Does it matter if I make a payment every month, or does it matter if it's still going to do the same thing?
100%. 100%. So again, not to go off on a tangent, but I think people should really start looking into that too, especially with it's not a down market, but I mean, it's getting aggressive. So
yeah, things are changing. I haven't paid attention to it as much until like probably the last year and a half as we're really getting into it. But it's interesting, how it changes like with the economy and with the market, how it becomes a lot tougher and a lot more aggressive to finance things and to get equipment. And as you saw, this must have been a year, 2 years ago, prices of equipment just skyrocketed. I mean, like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Stupid amounts. Like there was in some of them, it was like 50% that they went up, and they said inflation was like 9% or 7% of whatever it was, so the barriers of entry are a lot higher than what they were too. Right. And costs as far as project totals, they haven't changed a whole lot. Obviously like your supply costs have gone up.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean your total job cost goes up all the time either.
Right.
So
especially if somebody will do it cheaper.
100%. And there's people that'll always do it cheaper than you.
Yeah.
Right. But there's still the way we look at it as like, and Trevor explained it on the webinar, we send you the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Right. So ours probably isn't going to be the cheapest, but guess what? If you're building a multifamily building, your numbers on this building are based off of your rents. Right. Yeah. And if the project doesn't make sense as far as like a budget standpoint to match the numbers that you did your pro forma on, you're probably not going to do it.
Yeah.
So I would rather give the worst case scenario and be like, hey, if this happens, this is what it's going to cost you. If this doesn't happen, this is your deduct. Right. Yeah. And then maybe they'll have the option to rework, because then hopefully you don't have to do a bunch of change orders on that person. And again, another topic based off that, but.
Do you think that builds more trust when you phrase it like that? Like it's higher, but this is like more of the worst case scenario, so we can avoid some of these change orders?
For some, yeah. There's value in it with some companies, and some are not with others, which is fine. Yeah. But if they don't value our opinion and value our knowledge on what we're doing, I probably wouldn't want to work with them anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I feel like it goes both ways too, because you do have to get aggressive on some and go win it. But at the end of the day too, it's just business. Like not every deal is going to be the exact same, and everyone's going to be easy to work with. So you gotta fight for some, but also know who you want to work with.
100%. And again, in this industry, so relationship based, right?
Yeah.
If you start off strong by trying to show like you care about relationships, that's going to help you. Yeah. If you show that I'm in business to make money, but I'm also in business to try to help you make money, that goes a long way.
Yeah. I think that goes further actually. Like when you have that business mind of like, let's both make money on this. Like, and because I think they respect that you need to make money as well. Mm-hmm. And they know that, and they, can kind of see that.
Mm-hmm. and you can usually tell the one, I mean, low bid basis contractors do not give a fuck about you.
Yeah.
Right. They don't care. And that comes with a lot of like public projects. You know, it obviously has to be low bid basis. So there's really no relationship building based off that end. But we try to stay away from those people.
Yeah.
And it's work, because if we're not making money, the project is probably going to get delayed. We're probably trying to find ways to where we can save, and schedules might not time. I actually have a really long LinkedIn post that I've typed up about this that I'm still editing to make sure it's like solid. So I'm going to post that here soon.
All right. Yeah, so if you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn so you can see Luke's post. Luke, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've seen more and more contractors start to trickle in, and like they'll like shoot me a connection request with like they're brand new to it. I'm like, I think they may have taken your advice, or like one of us, where
I would hope so. Getting on LinkedIn.
Dude, it's
such a good tool.
So awesome. So yeah, if you guys aren't on it, like if you're going to spend time on any social media, like I think LinkedIn, I jump on for like 5-10 minutes a day, and it's done wonders. But it, especially in this industry, you know, construction, there's some heavy hitters on there.
LinkedIn is the professional Facebook. And I hate going on Facebook and scroll. If LinkedIn had like some sort of marketplace, I would never go back to Facebook.
Dude, I think it would ruin it. I think it would ruin LinkedIn.
Yeah, I probably would. I love Facebook Marketplace. I hate Facebook, but I love the marketplace.
Yeah, no, I only go on Facebook for the marketplace and see what we got on there. But
see the deals and
but yeah, I guess other than that, new segments coming out. So we'll keep you guys updated on that. We'll probably change like some of the titles so you guys can see it a bit easier and kind of know what you're jumping into. And Luke, now that we have more of like a library of episodes, we can start to kind of categorize them that way. So if we have any new
turn your notifications on too. So when we do post, because some of them are going to be random, then you get notified.
Yeah, it's a good point. Turn those notifications on, follow the podcast. It helps us. And then also if you're on Spotify or any of the others, you can leave a review.
Give us a rating.
I think we've got a good solid amount, like 30 or 40.
We got more than that. I think we got 49.
Holy shit.
I actually looked the other day because I was like, I wonder what our rating's at. Let me look.
I feel like we've never even asked for them either. So
we haven't.
Thank you.
You're right. We're at a 4.9.
Yes.
31 ratings. Yeah.
One dirtbag gave us probably like a 4-star.
Probably. Damn it. Oh, well, 4.9 is still good.
It's that first dent in your car. You got to get it out of the way.
You got to get it out of the way.
I'd rather have a 4.9.
Yeah. Whatever. It is.
Anyway,
I wish it was out of 10, because then I'd really strive for the 6.9.
Yeah. Just D+.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever grade that is. I don't really care. I just
dude, I actually had a lot of, as we kind of wrap up here, I had a lot of people message me on your intro.
Oh, my intro. Little preface to that. I was fucking hot off a tough day. And then some lady tried to deny our hotel, and yeah, it was not good. And I was not very happy at this lady. So I came in hot, and I also left pretty hot. So thank you for sticking with us in that podcast.
I think you were going for like 20 minutes. I just like hit record and then we kind of just like went right into it. But no, I'm glad we kept it in.
That was a funny one.
But yeah, I don't think I've ever listened to any of our podcasts back ever. Like, so I'm actually pretty impressed that you did that.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I just got a wild hair and I just went for it.
That's crazy. Maybe we'll do that one of these days. But yeah, so we got lots of cool things coming up. If anyone's going out to, that Dirt World Summit in Houston, let us know. It'd be fun to, meet up and do something together, maybe play some golf, and
might have some blackjack. I'm in.
Now we're talking.
I'm in.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, blackjack, golf, talk some business, and then of course check out all the sessions there. So should be a good time. And yeah, Luke, anything else we got cooking?
I think we covered most of it. Again, the new segment. Sorry about our little rants that we had, and we're just kind of looking forward to the new episodes that we can push out, and keep giving us questions, keep giving us feedback, and we're gonna keep rolling.
All right, let's go. We'll see you guys next one.